Good morning, welcome along. The fixtures for a brand new Premier League season have been released, and this is how it starts.
The first game of the new season is Manchester United at home to Fulham on Friday Night Football live on Sky.
Ipswich begin life back in the Premier League at home against Liverpool in Arne Slot's first game in charge. Arsenal against Wolves first up at the Emirates.
Elsewhere, Everton take on Brighton, Newcastle host promoter Southampton, and Nottingham Forest play Bournemouth.
Yeah, first Saturday night football is West Ham against Aston Villa. What a season for them last time around. The first Super Sunday game is Brentford against Crystal Palace before a huge clash between Chelsea and the champions Manchester City. So those are the opening fixtures for the brand new season. Let's see how the champions start then with Manchester City's first 6 games. As we said, Pep Guardiola's team kick-start the defence of their title away at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. That is followed by new boys Ipswich at the Etihad. Then they go to West Ham before home games against Brentford and last season's title rivals Arsenal on the weekend of September the 21st. After that, a trip to Newcastle. Well, what about Liverpool then? Arne Slot's first game in charge, as we've mentioned, is at Portman Road against Ipswich. Then it's Brentford at home a week later. Slot will get to experience Manchester United for the first time at the end of August before home games against Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth. Then it is a trip to Wolves. What about last season's runners-up Arsenal, so close to winning the title? Well, they start at home against Wolves. Then it is Aston Villa who beat them twice last season. Brighton at the Emirates comes next. Then the first North London derby of the season before a trip to City. After that, home to Premier League new boys Leicester. Erik ten Hag will lead Manchester United into the new season. They start against Fulham at Old Trafford, live on Sky Sports. The next 5 games after that, Brighton, home to Liverpool, Southampton, Crystal Palace, both of those matches away before a home game against Tottenham. Enzo Maresca is the new man in at Chelsea. He starts with that huge match against Manchester City and Pep Guardiola, who he knows so well. After that, they go to Wolves, home to Palace, away to Bournemouth, also a trip to West Ham, and then at home to Brighton. And these are the first live games on Sky Sports in the new season. We are at Old Trafford on the first Friday night of the new campaign for Manchester United against Fulham. Saturday night, it is Unai Emery's Aston Villa at West Ham, their first game under new manager Julen Lopetegui. What an end to the season for Palace it was. Oliver Glasner takes them to Brentford on Super Sunday before champions Manchester City at Stamford Bridge for Enzo Maresca's first game at Chelsea. Monday Night Football is Leicester against Tottenham. Well, every single Premier League fixture for the 2024-25 season is on the Sky Sports app. You can get to the app by scanning that QR code that's on your screen right now. It'll take you straight to the fixtures section. Scan the QR code. You can also head to a live blog. The new fixtures are there too, along with interviews and analysis.
Speaking of interviews and analysis, let's get some live reaction now. And Ipswich's return to the Premier League for the first time since 2002 begins with the home game against Liverpool. We're heading to Ipswich now, where our reporter Paul Gilmore joins us.
Thank you. Good morning. 22 years away, first season back. Liverpool and Manchester City to start with. Nice and easy for Ipswich on the return to the big time. Kieran McKenna and Mark Ashton, delighted to say manager and chief executive, join us from Portman Road. Kieran, what about that for a start?
Yeah, it's a fantastic start. Everyone's going to be so excited. You know, 2 of the biggest clubs in world football, home start against Liverpool. You know, it brings it all to life, and it's you know, it's an amazing start for us.
What kind of impact do you think you could have playing Liverpool first game here at your home ground with that new buzz and the fact that they have a new manager, perhaps the players getting used to him? How do you call that?
No, look, we're delighted to have a home game first. We know the atmosphere that has been created over the last couple of years in the stadium, and we know that will carry on even more so this year. So it's great to have a home start. To have one of the best teams in the league for sure is a big challenge. Yeah, of course, new manager and things like that, but we're certainly not going to underestimate the scale of the challenges that we're going to have all season, and certainly Liverpool will be that on the first day. But at the same time, it's, as I say, great to have a home start. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic. The players will be as ready as they possibly can be, and it's a game we'll really look forward to.
Mark, when you see a couple of opening fixtures like that, is that when it maybe begins to sink in a little bit?
Yeah, it's suddenly got very real very quickly. I think it's great not only for the club, but for the town and the wider county and the fan base to be at home for the first game and against, one of the biggest football clubs in the world. So yeah, Kieran's right. We won't underestimate the size of the challenge, but just eager to get underway.
How are preparations going for the new season, and what do you think this squad can achieve? You've done the back-to-back promotions. Are you still almost riding a crest of a wave, and can that carry you into some early momentum in the season?
Oh, look, we know we've done some amazing work at the football club over the last couple of years, and we've had a really consistent group that have came up now through 2 divisions, and we have to carry the best elements of what we've done over the last couple of years. But we also know we need to improve in every department, and of course, recruitment's one of those, and the club's working really hard to add to the squad, to give the group of players who've been with us more help, and we're going to need that. So yeah, it's been a busy summer. It continues to be a busy summer. We're going to have to work really hard, and the club are working hard in every department, and it's going to be about building on the foundations that we've laid in place over the last couple of years. But we know we're going to have to go to to a different level in all departments, really.
And Mark, what is that like? What does the summer hold for you, and what's the approach to recruitment?
Recruitment's just part of it, both on and off the pitch. There's an incredible amount of work to do to get the stadium ready, the training ground ready, the upgrades ready for the Premier League. And then on the pitch, obviously, it's a busy summer ahead. Kieran and I working together tirelessly on player recruitment and making sure we can be the best version of ourselves. So it's incredibly busy, and the challenge is we have to be ready.
What's it worth to the club financially to be back in the Premier League?
Oh, look, you're talking into the hundreds of millions. The revenues increase substantially, but so do the costs. But I think equally importantly, the economic impact that promotion to the Premier League has on the town and the county, I think is really important. As you said, we've been away 22 years. And this is a big footballing town, it's a big footballing county, huge tradition and history at this football club. And I think, we're very proud to be back in the Premier League, and we want to be the best versions of ourselves competing in there.
And of course, best versions of yourselves has involved keeping hold of this man after a summer of speculation. No sooner had you gone up. Did that leave you, Kieran, with a difficult dilemma almost? You've achieved something so special with this group of players, and yet there's so much interest in you. What was your summer like, and what was your thought process?
No, of course, when you have the success that we've had over the last couple of years, then, there's going to be interest, and, there's always a professional decision to make there, but there's also the personal decision to make, and I'm so happy to have, secured my future here. I said the first year in 22 years back in the Premier League. We're one of the first teams to get double promoted to the Premier League in a very long time, and I wanted to be part of that. And it's going to be an amazing season for the football club, and I'm going to, just so excited to be the one who's going to lead the team out through those fixtures, and work really hard to continue the journey that we've been on. So, yeah, of course, those sort of things happen naturally whenever clubs or players or staff members have success. But everyone now is just so looking forward to the season ahead and the challenges that we have ahead, and we'll try and attack them in the way that we've attacked the last couple of years.
I think if that kind of interest could, of course, play with anyone's head, how tempted were you, or what was the kind of step-by-step process that you took in your mind to make ultimately a decision? No,
look, I think, to be honest, those are private decisions, and I think in everyone's career you have to weigh things up for what's right for your family and things like that. That's a natural process, but it's about looking forward. It's about building on what we've done here over the last few years. This wonderful football club that I'm so proud to manage. Football club who took you can't say a chance, I guess, or give me the opportunity at 35 years old, and I think we've had a fantastic couple of years together, and now it's about looking forward into a historic and memorable season that we have ahead, and putting our best foot forward, and I know we're going to give a really good account of ourselves.
And Mark, no games played yet, but was this the first win of pre-season, if you like, before the Premier League starts?
It's probably the most important signing we're going to make. That's for sure. But no, look, I think Kieran's just answered that question perfectly well. Success brings a different type of challenge, but I think our relationship in all of this is key. The way we communicate, the way we work together. And as Kieran said, we're both so proud to have the opportunity to lead this football club into the Premier League. And we're excited, and it can't come quick enough now, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll finish on the fixtures, because I think not only that tough start, but you've got, I think, Arsenal and Chelsea in 4 days over the Christmas period as well. Just what kind of preparation now goes in with the group of players? What's been your message to them ahead of pre-season starting?
Yeah, we'll have a good pre-season for sure. We have to use, any advantages that we get. The Championship season finishes a little bit earlier, so we have a couple of weeks head start on the recovery. So we'll be back in before most of the Premier League teams. Of course, we'll have the majority of the group from last season together early. We'll try and get as much of a recruitment done early as we possibly can to have a really good pre-season. We have to make the most of the 7 weeks that we will have training together, and know that other clubs have more players in international tournaments, more players throughout the world over the summer, and we'll try and utilise that as best we can. So it's of course going to be a really important pre-season. The fixture list gives you real clarity on what the challenge is in the first couple of games, and things that we're really going to have to emphasise in pre-season, and we just can't wait to get stuck into that work now. The players will be back soon. They're already working hard, and we'll prepare as well as any team possibly can.
Kieran, Mark, best of luck for it, and thank you for taking the time out to speak. You guys are heading to, of course, Ipswich Town business fixtures release, so I can tell you there's a good buzz down in that room. Everybody excited, and now they've seen the fixtures. What a start it is. Liverpool here at Portman Road, live on Sky on the opening weekend of the season.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. So fixtures day, a big morning, calls for a big name guest. Michael Dawson was busy, so Clinton Morrison is here instead. Welcome along. Good morning.
Morning. Here we go. The banner, it doesn't change the banner, does it?
High
Hello,
quality.
Julia.
We've got the trophy. We've got you, Clinton. Welcome back to the Premier League, Ipswich. Liverpool and Manchester City. Away you go.
Yeah, listen, it's the Premier League. It's tough fixtures. McKenna probably wouldn't have wanted those fixtures. But go and enjoy it. You're in the Premier League now. It's brilliant that Ipswich are in there. He done a fantastic job. He's one of the best managers around for me at the moment, Kieran McKenna, and there's a lot of top clubs interested. But yeah, Liverpool at home, Man City away. Listen, there's no easy games, but they're the two hardest games. And then you look at the Fulhams, the Brighton, Southampton. Man, Villa's a tough game as well. As I said, no easy games in the Premier League. It's tough, but they'll be looking forward to it, Ipswich, and they thoroughly deserve to be in the Premier League.
Yeah, starts with Man United, Fulham Friday night football, and we've got Chelsea, Manchester City on the Sunday as well. Which of those opening fixtures are you looking forward to?
Oh, the Chelsea, Man City. That's the standout game. When that came out, you look at it and you say, what a game that is. Obviously, Chelsea had a good end to the season. Maresca's now gone in there. They've got no Pochettino, so that's a huge game. And Man City are going to be the favourites again, because as long as Pep Guardiola's at that football club, you always make Man City favourites. So I think it'll be a fascinating Premier League. I think it'll be different. I think it'll be close like it was last year as well. I think Arsenal will have a shout, Liverpool. So there'll be a lot of the top teams that will be challenging. But yeah, I think it'll go down to the wire again. But I can't look past Man City again.
We touched there on Manchester City, who will be chasing an unprecedented 5th straight Premier League title. Let's go live to Manchester and join our reporter Peter Stevenson. Good morning.
Yeah, very good morning. There's a drizzle in the air, even though it's June in Manchester, but there's also a tingle of expectation, as you say. Fixtures day, always a really, really significant part of the build-up to the new season. Just a little reminder behind us: champions 4 in a row, history makers. Question is, I suppose, have they still got the hunger, the appetite to go again? And that Chelsea opener, I'm sure, will have certainly whetted the appetite. Let's talk to Oliver Kirsch, who's from the City Report podcast. Are you as excited as I am?
I think so. I don't know. I'm tired after the last few seasons, but as Pep says, we go again. So,
what about those opening games in particular? I'm looking at Chelsea, I'm looking at Arsenal and Newcastle in your opening 6 games. That looks a bit tough.
It's tough. It is tough because later in the season you've got different dynamics at play. What games have been rescheduled? What games? Which teams have got something to play for? Which don't? But as it lines up, those first 6 games, that's how you've got to play them. And there's a few tough fixtures in there.
And a lovely reunion with Enzo because he had a spell here, didn't he? In charge of the development squad.
Yeah, Pep's used to it now. I think he's probably got his own meeting room for all his acolytes that are now in management. Of course, our company, Arteta, Maresco. Now there's a few of them. So yeah, I'm sure he's excited for that.
And in terms of the season, an awful lot of noise about Pep. 1 year left on his contract. What are your thoughts?
Look, somebody like Pep, he works at 110 miles an hour every single week, every single season. He's got to have the energy for it. You don't want a Pep that is running at less than 110%. So if he's motivated, if he's feeling up for it, then of course I think everybody, everyone, no exception, will want Pep to stay. But it's just whether or not it's right for him, and if he does go, then hopefully he can, along with the board, find the right person to come in.
And I guess in terms of looking back at those fixtures, as a club that's going to be busy in the Champions League, for example, in September, you need a decent start, don't you?
No. Historically, we haven't had that many great starts under Pep. We've had a few. We've had a lot of seasons. Last season being one where we don't really get into gear until after Christmas, and that's when we seem to hit top speed. So, do we need a good start? It would be nice. It'd be good for my nerves and everyone else's. This club has taken years off my life. It would be nice to have what looks to be a smooth season from the beginning, but we're kind of used to that not being the case.
And as part of the build-up, we'll expect a little bit of business, won't we? Some comings and goings?
Hard to say this year. We've not really had the noise around City's transfer window that we have in the past. I know there's been murmurings of a couple, Ederson, Mateus Nunes potentially on the way out. There's still, question marks over Walker and De Bruyne getting to the latter stages of the career. Grealish, of course, hasn't been playing as much. Will any of them leave? Don't know. Who's coming in? Bruno, we've heard from Newcastle potentially. Paqueta, that's up in the air at the moment. But it's been quiet compared to usual.
And before I leave you, we've got to talk about Phil Foden. An awful lot of debate about he's had such a wonderful season domestically, but what did you make of the way he seemed to struggle playing for England the other night?
It's an odd one, Phil Foden, with England, isn't it? I mean, I think part of it is just simply the way he's deployed. We've seen him put in a Player of the Season campaign through the middle at City, being the main man, especially when De Bruyne hasn't been on the pitch. I felt he was kind of isolated out wide for England, but there are other great players in that squad, of course, Bellingham being one of them. So they're kind of fighting for that space and that position through the middle of the pitch, really, and it's up to Gareth to get it right.
Well, you're going to get some sleep before the start of the new season. You're going to need it, okay? We're all looking forward to it. It's going to be a terrific season, I'm sure. Just 90 days between the end of the old and the start of the new, and City, more than anyone else, I'm sure, they're ready for it.
Peter, thank you ever so much.
Now it's time for a little Premier League teaser. These are all related to the opening day, and the first question is about the players to have scored the most goals on the opening weekend in Premier League history. 4 players are tied on 8 goals. We've given you Alan Shearer and Wayne Rooney. Can you name the other 2? Answers on the way after the break. Welcome back. Here's a recap of the Premier League teaser we asked you before. There are 4 players who've scored 8 goals in the opening weekend of the Premier League. We've given you Alan Shearer and Wayne Rooney there. But can you name the other 2? Well, here's the answer. Frank Lampard and Mohamed Salah. They're all tied on 8 each.
Let's get back to some of the key fixtures then for the new season. Boxing Day looks like this. Another tough one for Kieran McKenna's Ipswich at Arsenal. It is Bournemouth against Crystal Palace. Brighton take on Brentford. Then a West London derby at Stamford Bridge as Chelsea host Fulham. Leicester at Anfield to take on Liverpool. The champions Manchester City play Everton. Long trip for Villa up to Newcastle on Boxing Day. It is Nottingham Forest. Nuno Espirito Santo faces his former club Tottenham. Southampton, West Ham and Manchester United are at Wolves. How key could the final day fixtures be then on May the 25th, 2025? Bournemouth against Leicester, Fulham against Manchester City, who needed the points going into the final day last season to clinch that title. Ipswich against West Ham. Liverpool take on Palace, who beat them at Anfield last season. Manchester United against Aston Villa. Newcastle, Everton. Forest, Chelsea. Southampton take on Arsenal. It will be Spurs against Brighton. And then Wolves at home at Molineux on the final day up against Brentford.
Oh, let's look at Aston Villa's start to the season. They begin with a trip to West Ham. That's how they open the season. And then they have a tasty-looking home match against Arsenal, who they beat twice last season. They're then away to Leicester. Home games against Everton and Wolves to come after that. And a trip to Ipswich rounds off their first 6. And Spurs, they start away to newly promoted Leicester before a home game against Everton. That's followed by a visit to Newcastle, and then it's the North London derby. That's an early standout match at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They've got another home game against Brentford, and then an away match. They go to Old Trafford to play Manchester United. Newcastle, what about them? Well, they start at home to Southampton, then they're away to Bournemouth. They are home again against Tottenham and away to Wolves and Fulham. Their 6th game is at home, and it's a big one. It's against the champions, Manchester City. Newly promoted Leicester in focus now. The Championship champions start their return to the Premier League at home against Tottenham. Then they're away. Their first away game of the season is at Fulham, and they return home to play Aston Villa. Away again, a trip to London for Crystal Palace, Everton at home, and then a trip to Arsenal at the end of September. Southampton's return to the Premier League starts away to Newcastle, Nottingham Forest at home, and Brentford away. That rounds off their August. Then it's Manchester United and Ipswich at home, and to end off September, they travel to Bournemouth. What about Liverpool? Well, they head into the new season with a new man in the dugout. Arne Slot knows his first game in charge at the club now. It'll be away to Ipswich, and Vinny O'Connor is at Anfield for us.
That's it. We know exactly the start that Arne Slot has got in store for him at Liverpool after succeeding Jurgen Klopp. It is Ipswich away on that first day, followed by Brentford at home, and then a big one against Manchester United away at Old Trafford as well. Alongside me is Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap. And Neil, I just wonder what you make of that start that's in store for Arne Slot now.
I mean, Ipswich away feels like quite something.
I'm not going to talk about half-12 kickoffs, by the way.
Well, yeah, they had a great time at the end of last season. You know, it looked brilliant around Portman Road. So to go and get to be part of that's no bad thing at all. It'll be difficult because they'll be really well drilled, and it's the biggest game of some of those players' lives. Let's bear that in mind. But you've got to play everyone and go from there. I think the start's actually been quite kind. There's none of what I'd sort of term the big 8 apart from United in the first 7 fixtures. And I'm happy with the Manchester team away in the early run. It's something I said I wanted because we often don't win there. So if it's taking a bit of time to bed down, we drew at Old Trafford last season, we drew at the Etihad last season. We don't have that many wins at Old Trafford in general. So these things happen from time to time, but nonetheless, it's still exciting, isn't it? It's great to have the full list in. It's great to be able to plot your moves, and it's brilliant to go to Brighton in the summer.
I'm sure you're already thinking that if you can get 9 points from those first 3 games, then you go into the international break in great shape.
Absolutely, yeah, the sky's the limit. Let's envisage it now. I think in being able to plot a course is the most important thing, and I think that the other thing that's broken nicely for Liverpool is I quite like the games after the Champions League matches are put in. No one entirely comprehends how that'll be yet. We haven't lived one. Everyone's got to play at least 2 very good teams, 2 good teams, 2 quite good teams, and then maybe 2 who are a little bit weaker. And those 8 games, who you've got before, after then, it's telling. So I'm quite happy with how that's broken for Liverpool as well. I think that there's a bit of kindness in there. But because we've got a relatively straightforward start, it means we've got a pretty horrendous December, and it means we've got a pretty tough April and May. That's the way in which it goes. You can't, you can't repeatedly play the weaker sides in the league, but the league's strong, and you've got to rate everybody who you come up against because there's no passengers anymore.
Well, let's have a look at that December. I mean, before that as well, there's a little bit in October where you got Chelsea here at Anfield, and then it's Arsenal away. But moving up towards December, City here on the 30th of November, although that could end up being in December, obviously. Then it's Newcastle away, followed by the Merseyside derby at Goodison, Fulham home, and then it's Spurs away on the 21st.
Yeah, that's very, very tough because there'll be a couple of Champions League games in there as well. Listen, you don't want Newcastle after playing Champions League football. They're going to have a week between games this season. Of those top 8 sides, they're the ones who haven't got European football. They're going to be so dangerous, so well drilled. They're already physically imposing. You know, that's one of the things that Eddie Howe's got going on there. So the idea that there's a week that they get that you don't get, so that's a relief. Listen, at Goodison, we've got to put right what once went wrong, to quote Sam Beckett on Quantum Leap, off the back end of last season, you know, and that obviously is a massive game, but then you go into Goodison Park and you know the atmosphere will be absolutely unbelievable. You know that they'll be up for it like nothing on earth. So yeah, that's a really, really tough week. And we know the other thing that you can point out, as you've said, all 3 of those games will be televised. You know, all 3 of those games will be massive events, and that's something else that Slot's going to have to get used to. These players already know, but the reality of this is, if you're Liverpool manager, you're the centre of the story, you're the centre of attention. That week is one already. It's got a big red circle around it for everyone, I'm sure.
And not only that, of course, you start the new year against United here as well.
Yeah, I'm into that one. That one's great. I think it's interesting the way in which they moved the FA Cup. I think there was a bit of noise in amongst all the stuff around the replays. What was missed was all the FA Cup games now get their own weekend until you get to the semi-final. What that means, though, is that they'll push the third round of the FA Cup back to January the 11th, which means we get a little bit of a longer lead time into that. What it does lead to, I think, is there will be a little bit of an advantage for some sides if they do go out to the Cup relatively early, because there'll be a bit more time to rest and recuperate between these matches. It's going to be, let's be honest, all the way up and down the pyramid. I think this at times ends up being a focus on European teams in the Premier League. You know, you've got Championship sides, you've got League One, League Two sides playing EFL Trophy games as well. 46 games is so many. I think there is a bit of a thing here where more and more there's going to be chat about the burden on the footballers, because not only are they asked to play this many games, but there's this much intensity and there's this much riding on all of them. And as I say, I mean that for League Two sides as well as for teams like Liverpool and Manchester City. I think we do need to think about looking after the players a little bit more.
Just finally then, and on that kind of theme, how intense could that run-in be for Liverpool when you've got Chelsea away, Arsenal home, Brighton away, Palace at home, those final 4 games?
They're the final 4 league games, but if Liverpool are still in Europe at that point, and we all want them to be, you're dropping Champions League semi-finals in there as well, first and second legs. You know, in the Dutch league, you play 34 games, you haven't got a League Cup. And that is, you know, it's one of the concerns for the new manager coming in, is that there's a lot to get used to here. It took Klopp time in his first season, it took Guardiola time in his first season. Let's be clear about that. This isn't me making excuses, by the way. Liverpool should be challenged on all fronts. That's the job, and that's what he's got to have a squad of mass to do that for him and work with the powers that be at Liverpool. But yeah, what you've just named there, that is one challenging running, and that game, third to last at this place against Arsenal, if there's anything riding on it, it could be absolutely unbelievable.
Thanks very much for joining us, Neil. Maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves when we're talking about a run-in and exactly where the teams could be, but certainly excitement already ahead of the new Premier League season.
Thank you, Vinny. This is what they're all playing for next season then. We'll bring you much more next as we discuss Manchester United, and we are returning to Ipswich as well. Welcome back. Quick reminder of the opening day fixtures in a brand new Premier League season. First up, Friday night football comes from Old Trafford. Manchester United against Fulham. The newly promoted Ipswich kick off at Portman Road against Liverpool. Manchester City at Chelsea is the first Super Sunday. The first Saturday night football, Aston Villa in the Champions League next season are at West Ham. Promoted sides Southampton visit Newcastle, and Leicester on the first Monday night football of the season go to Tottenham. And you can get to the app by scanning the QR code that's on your screen. You'll get to the fixtures section, and every single match of the new campaign is live on the website as well.
An exciting new era at Brighton. 31-year-old and the youngest ever Premier League manager, Fabian Hürzeler, faces Everton at Goodison on the opening day. That's followed by games against Manchester United, Arsenal and Ipswich, then Nottingham Forest and Chelsea. Julian Lopetegui replaced David Moyes at West Ham last month, and he starts at home against Aston Villa. A trip to Crystal Palace will follow that before a home game against Manchester City. Their next 3 matches are 3 London derbies against Fulham, Chelsea and Brentford. Crystal Palace had a fantastic second half to the season under Oliver Glasner, and they begin the new season against Brentford away from home. Their first home game is West Ham before matches against Chelsea, Leicester, Manchester United and Everton. Speaking of Everton, they start against Brighton before games against Tottenham, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Leicester and Crystal Palace.
Well, let's turn our attention to Manchester United then, and Erik ten Hag will take charge of the side heading into a new season. Let's have a look how it starts for United with Fulham at home first. How do you view their start to the season, Clinton?
To be fair, it's not too bad. Fulham at home is like, listen, Fulham are a good team. Marco Silva's done a brilliant job there, but it's going to be, he's still under pressure, even though he stayed in the job. After a month, the results are not going well. They will sack him, the hierarchy. So at the end of the day, I think the job that they've done at the FA Cup has probably given him a bit of time, that terrific result against Man City. But you look at that game, the Liverpool at home game, that's the standout game. But the rest of the fixtures, apart from Palace away, is a tough game.
Oh,
going to Selhurst Park is always tough.
Well, I mean, we remember what happened last season.
That's what I'm trying to say. But no, listen, as I said earlier on, there's no easy games in the Premier League. But looking at that start, that's not bad for Man United.
Surprised to see him in the dugout again?
Yeah, I was surprised because all the rumours that you hear is that his job was under threat. But you know what? He got another trophy, and that's what you're brought in as a manager to do, is get a trophy. But in the Premier League, they were nowhere near good enough. They need to improve massively the squad, and he needs to sort out the Sancho situation. You can't have a player like that go to Dortmund and turn it on. There is ability in there, so something needs to be sorted out there. But I was surprised, but you wish him well and good luck to him.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you mentioned the FA Cup, and that's right. And he will say, look, 2 trophies in 2 seasons, that's what I've delivered. But there were so many poor performances in the league that you shouldn't really be basing a decision on one cup final, should you?
No, yeah, and you're 100% spot on. To be fair, I look at it and I think, how have you put that performance in the FA Cup final, but you didn't put that performance during the league season for most of the season? And probably that's the biggest disappointment. But as I said, that FA Cup bide him some time, and now they've got to kick on next season. I do think the recruitment has to be, they have to get players out and then try and get players in. That will take a bit of time because you don't know how much money they've got at the football club to spend at this moment. But it's another big job for him. But as I said, he got the result against Man City, so good luck to him for the rest of the season. But it's going to be a hard season again.
It might well be hard as well. Whilst we've got you here, we'll talk Liverpool too. Arne Slot going in, I mean, follow that because he's following one of the great managers of the Premier League era.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the best I've seen in the Premier League. I think Jurgen Klopp's outstanding, not just for what he does for Liverpool on the pitch. I think off the pitch he's brilliant as well. He's bubbly. But it's going to be difficult for Arne Slot. But I think he's a good, by all accounts, I haven't seen a lot of him, but his teams, they played a similar style of play. So it's going to take a bit of time, though. And with Liverpool as well, they have got top players. With them, they need no injuries and they need everyone to buy into Arne Slot. But I think Liverpool will be fine next season. You
get the sense that that is a group of fans that are pretty patient and do appreciate just how difficult it is to follow someone like Jurgen Klopp. Do you sense there will be a big change in the way that they play?
No, I don't think there'll be a big change, I think, because that's why they brought in Slot. I think he might be similar to how Jurgen Klopp. If there is a big change, we'll see the first game of the season. But I think the way Liverpool play, they've got the players that can buy into that structure. But that's why I'm happy that they got the manager in early, Arne Slot, when they knew, and got their business done early. So you can build up in pre-season and get a style of how he wants to play. But I don't think they'll be miles different from how Jurgen Klopp wants to play.
All right, Clinton, thank you very much for the moment.
Now for our second teaser, it's all about hat-tricks. 10 players have grabbed a hat-trick on the opening day of the Premier League season. How many can you name? Stay with us. Answers up next. Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you how many of the 10 players you could name that scored a hat-trick on the opening day of the Premier League season. How many did you get? Well, here's the answer. The 10 players are Mick Quinn, Matt Le Tissier, Fabrizio Ravanelli, Dion Dublin, Gabriel Agbonlahor, Didier Drogba, Raheem Sterling, Mohamed Salah, Bruno Fernandes, and the late Kevin Campbell.
Clinton Morrison, obviously an absentee there. You ever get any on the first day, or...?
Yeah, I got a few, but never a hat-trick.
Right, let's focus on the rivalry, shall we? Just a couple of points separated Manchester City and Arsenal at the top of the league last season. This is when they face each other next time around. Don't have to wait long for the first instalment, weekend of September the 21st. And then Manchester City go to the Etihad right at the start of February. City will meet their other old foes from the last few seasons, Liverpool at Anfield. They've not got a great record there. November the 30th, and Arne Slot's first trip to the Etihad will be on February the 22nd. First Manchester derby of the new season isn't until mid-December. Then the two meet at the Etihad 11 days before Christmas, and again in April for the reverse game at Old Trafford. Everton got a long-awaited win over Liverpool at Goodison late last season. Can they do it again when the two teams meet in December? The return fixture at Anfield is a midweek game on April the 2nd. What about North London? Well, it was such a crucial fixture towards the end of last season, wasn't it? Tottenham against Arsenal. Nice and early this time around, September the 14th for that one. The return fixture at the Emirates is on January the 14th. That's the first midweek round of 2025. As we've mentioned a couple of times already, an early meeting between Manchester United and Liverpool. Two teams face off on the final day of August. The return fixture, the opening game of the new year, January the 4th. For that one at Anfield. These then, the first live games of the brand new season. We are at Old Trafford for the first match, Friday night football, Manchester United against Fulham. The Saturday night football, Unai Emery's Villa at West Ham under Julen Lopetegui for the first time. Oliver Glasner takes Palace to Brentford on Super Sunday. That is the start of the main course, is the champions Manchester City at Chelsea for Enzo Maresca's first game in charge his former club Leicester in the first Monday night football against Tottenham.
OK, Clinton, let's focus on one of your former clubs now.
That's what we should have done that for the last hour.
Wow. Steady.
All right, I'm joking.
What do you make of their first 6 fixtures?
Yeah, listen, the fixtures they're all kind of tough, but going to Brentford, I think that's a game where you look and you think if Palace are at it, they could get an opportunity. West Ham at home, good opportunity. Chelsea away is going to be a difficult game. Leicester at home, opportunity. Man United at home is an opportunity because I think at Selhurst Park they're good, and Everton away. That fixture list for Palace is good. I think Glasner will be happy. But as I said, it is the Premier League and it's not a foregone conclusion, them games.
Yeah, one of the form teams at the back end of the Premier League season going into 24-25. How important for them to start that way?
Yeah, they have to start well, but they've got a brilliant manager. I think Glasner's outstanding. I speak to a lot of the people there, and the intensity in training has gone up. They work ever so hard. He's non-stop, he's relentless, but that's what you want to be successful. And I think we know Palace, if they can keep their star players, they've got a great chance. I'll even put it out there, if they kept all their star players and added to that squad, they'd have a good chance of finishing in Europe. And people might look at me with amazement, but their form they showed end of last season.
We always look at you with amazement, Clinton, that is for sure. Let me ask you a question then on the back of that.
Yeah.
Eze, Elise, Gehi, how many of those are still there on the first day of the season?
Well, I hope all of them, but it could be a struggle to keep actually all three of them. They're all three top players. There'll be a lot of the top clubs and the top 4 clubs looking at them. So it's going to be difficult. I do believe at least 2 of them probably will stay, but 1 will go. And fingers crossed, if all 3 go, then it's going to be difficult. But the recruitment at Crystal Palace is outstanding. And you can even throw young Wharton into the mix, because I thought he's been outstanding. A lot of big clubs are watching him at the moment. So, as I say, the way they recruit at that football club with Dougie Freeman and the chairman, Steve Parish, is outstanding.
OK, so after coming so close last season, can Arsenal go one step further and win the title?
Well, they start their campaign at home to Wolves at the Emirates, which is where James Green is this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you guys as well. Yes, the fixtures are out, the exciting time of year for all football fans. And for Arsenal fans, well, it's not long to recover after the disappointment of missing out on the Premier League title to Manchester City. It's up and at them again, planning the fixtures and planning what hopefully for Arsenal fans could be that elusive Premier League trophy for the first time since 2004. And to discuss this and so much more, please be joined by Cecil from AFTV. Cecil, fixtures are out, Wolves at home.
Yeah,
how are you feeling about that?
Wolves at home to start, I think that's favourable for many Arsenal fans, but we'll be happy with that. A home game as well to start the Premier League is always, beneficial to the club and the fans as well. So Wolves at home, I'm happy with. I'm a lot more happy than, seeing a newly promoted side and being away to them. That was my biggest fear. Or a City or a Spurs way would be a worrying start. But Wolves at home, yeah, favourable, happy.
And then looking through the fixtures, it's a pretty tricky start, and it doesn't get trickier than a trip to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, first match day of the Champions League, and then a trip to the Etihad to face Manchester City.
See, that's where the fear is starting to grow in me. That September run, it is, like you mentioned there, Spurs away, always a difficult game. I know in the past 2 times we've beaten them there, which I've enjoyed. But yeah, no, that is worrying. Then obviously City the week after, massive game where you can't drop points. We learned that last season. Any points dropped is detrimental really to lifting that Premier League trophy. And in between that as well, with the new Champions League format, we have a Champions League fixture. Don't know what that is yet, but probably going to be, because it's the opening the week to Champions League, going to be a big team as well. So if we're looking at it, Spurs, big Champions League game, then City, a worry. But if you get through that, then, you know, things are going to be looking, hopefully, I don't want to jinx it, looking bright for Arsenal.
And what other fixtures were you looking at when they first got released?
I'll be honest, the first thing you go to is obviously the North London derby, but we've spoken about that. Then I look at, you know, Man United and Liverpool. I look at Anfield away Liverpool away is always difficult, always a tricky game for Arsenal. So I looked at that, but my new feeling and the new mindset is really what my eyes keep getting drawn to is the City game. So when we've got City at home and City away, because those are our competition. That is our competition now. It is Man City. So it's a new sort of feeling for me. But I look at the Man City games, but those are the ones. That's it. Spurs, it's Liverpool, Man United, and now Manchester City.
And look, as we've certainly all learned from the last couple of seasons how crucial it is to finish the season strong. When you look at the back end of the season, it looks a little bit different between Arsenal and Manchester City. Arsenal got to take on Liverpool, Newcastle, and then away to Southampton. Manchester City seems a little bit more straightforward, would you say?
Yeah, City seem to have an easier running, but hopefully we'll have the job done by that time. Well, I'm shameless, but no, of course, it's difficult a lot more difficult for Arsenal in the run into the end of the season compared to Man City. I mean, people might even say Southampton away on the last game. People might see that as favourable, but our results at Southampton away of late haven't been great. So it gives me a bit of worry, and obviously Liverpool's in there, Liverpool away, so that's a big game. I know they're going to go for a new rebuild. They've got Arne Slot in charge, so that they might not be the same Liverpool as what we've seen of past, but still, it's Anfield away, so it's a worry. It is a worry.
It's a worry, but could it well be a Premier League title heading to the Emirates Stadium at the end of it?
I have to believe. I'll be honest, after the last 2 seasons, but definitely last season, and the feeling I had, I really thought it was going to be our year. It was difficult. We didn't get it in the end. Obviously, City come up and won the Premier League, but I think this year there's a lot of pressure. It's harsh to say, but I think there's a lot of pressure of Arsenal this season because fans really want it. I think the team know as well. Listen, I was at the last game of the season as well, and you could see the players knew that they were disappointed that they didn't win the Premier League that season. So they know how much it's going to mean to them this season. It's important that we get it done in this Premier League season.
Important for Arsenal fans to get it done, but they'll kick-start the new Premier League season at home to Wolves.
James, thank you very much.
Clinton, let's talk about the dreaded drop. Who do you see struggling or in that bottom 3?
Yeah, it's difficult. You always look at the teams that have just been promoted because I think the gap from the Championship is getting bigger and bigger. But those teams will be competitive. Definitely, they will be. As I said earlier with Ipswich, I think they've got an outstanding manager. But their recruitment is going to be massive for all the clubs that are in and around that have just got promoted. So it will be difficult. You always make the 3 that come up the favourites to go down. But it's going to be a hard season. And there'll be lots of twists and turns. So don't ask me to predict who's going to go down just as yet. I'm still on my holiday mode.
I think you've been on that for about 3 seasons. Just a quick one, though. We said that the 3 might struggle who've come up, as was the case last season.
Yeah.
Of those that are still in the Premier League, who else do you think might be struggling near the bottom?
That's a really good question. It's a hard one. I look at Forest and I think Forest have got the players. They have got the exciting players, but they need to start really well. I think Forest, our team, even Brentford, if they lose Ivan Toney, you worry about Brentford. So they're probably a couple of teams that I'm thinking. And maybe Everton as well, because Everton, if they lose big players like Jared Bramford, that could be a struggle as well. But it's going to be competitive, and everyone tune in because it's going to be really good.
That's an excellent plug right at the end of it. Clinton, thank you very much. You've eased yourself out of holiday mode just before 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Quick reminder then of the live games on that opening weekend. Manchester United against Fulham first on the Friday night. Julian Lopetegui's first game in charge of West Ham is against Villa on Saturday night. Super Sunday, Brentford, Palace first, and then Chelsea against Manchester City. Leicester first game back Monday Night Football at home to Spurs.
And you can find all your club's fixtures for the new Premier League season over on Sky Sports website and app. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now to go straight to the app.
And the EFL fixtures are released as well. June the 26th at 9 o'clock in the morning for the Championship, League 1 and League 2. After that, SPFL, 9 o'clock on the 27th of June.